Hello and welcome to Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction brought to you by the Modular Building Institute. With a compact footprint, variety of unit options, and seamless system management, City multi-variable refrigerant flow zoning systems from Mitsubishi Electric Trane HVAC US are a one-stop solution for modular projects. With efficient operation and the ability to connect to commercial ventilation equipment, third-party systems, and comprehensive control solutions, City Multi VRF can help you meet energy and performance goals on your next project. From off-site development to on-site assembly, you can trust our manufacturer-level support to guide you from system selection to design to startup, no matter the application. To learn more about our offerings, visit MitsubishiPro.com. Welcome everyone, my name is John McMullen and I'm the Marketing Director here at MBI. Today I'm talking with Curtis Wong, founder and CEO of Cloud Apartments. Curtis will be talking about his fresh take on modular-based housing and the innovative ideas that are making it a reality. Curtis, welcome.
Hi, John. Great to be here.
Tell me about yourself, Curtis. What's your background and how did you find yourself in the modular construction industry?
Sure. So I've been somewhat obsessed with modular construction, I'd say, for the last 5 years or so. So quick background on myself. I graduated from Stanford University with a master's in structural engineering about 10 years ago. So I worked in the industry in California on buildings from Los Angeles to San Francisco. That's to get my PE license. After I did pivot though, so in search for innovation, honestly, I went to SpaceX to work on launch pads. So cool. I got to see a lot of cool stuff with the Falcon 9 vehicles. I got to see the first landing when we landed it back on the launch pad, and really learned a lot about innovation and got me excited about engineering again. So let's see, after SpaceX, I did go to Harvard to get my MBA and spent those 2 years really thinking about what I wanted to do after graduating. Ultimately, I ended up going back into my original industry, into construction, and really thought about housing as something I wanted to tackle. So I grew up in San Francisco. I've seen the damage that not enough housing does to a city. And I also see the rise of things like modular construction. So unlimited demand for housing solution in modular made a lot of sense to pursue a business. And that is ultimately what is now Cloud Apartments. So the last stop before Cloud Apartments was after graduating, I worked for this startup called Star City. So Star City raised over $50 million. And there I worked for a year on a tower called Star City Minna. So it was a 16-story steel tower in what would have been right in the middle of San Francisco. And spent a year on that as an engineer, as a developer, really got to see how you entitle something like that, how you make a tower like that in a seismic zone. So the engineering behind it, how to build a modular tower in a strong unionized city like San Francisco. We really got far on that project. I mean, unfortunately, ultimately, it didn't get built. It didn't have to do with modular, however. But it made me so optimistic about modular construction as a solution to housing that I found an investor and I've been running with Cloud Apartments ever since.
That's a pretty amazing background. Tell me about Cloud Apartments itself. It's a relatively new startup, right?
The idea is basically to start a new brand in multifamily rentals using a product line of modular apartments. So thinking about it a bit differently. And the idea is to improve the quality for renters and really reduce costs for developers. We are really thinking about how housing is built and how it's evolving over time. So what I just described to you, I'm calling 1.0 conventional construction. Building with studs, building with poured concrete, everything is customized, it's all one-off. Mm-hmm. And what we're moving into, I would say, is 2.0, modular construction. That's what we're all familiar with. That is where it's built in a factory, getting some efficiencies there, and you're starting to shave down time to build housing. But still issues. Cost isn't saved in the way modular construction is done today. Where we're moving is 3.0, productized construction, and that's what we're calling it. I see a lot of other players moving into this direction as well. So for us, productized construction is meant to reduce cost as well as time when you build. And for us, productized means we have three products, three apartments that we use for our buildings, calling it the Cloud S, a studio apartment, the Cloud 1, a 1-bedroom, and the Cloud 2, a 2-bedroom. And the characteristics of these are that they are as buildable as possible and as rentable as possible. So, just quickly, when I mean that, buildable meaning we have a patented connection system that allows them to really snap together on the job site, pipes, ducts, wires, as well as structure, and really drive down costs. And rentable meaning we are spending the time to really do user research and make that amazing apartment as far as having all of the amenities, the fixings that you'd expect, ample storage, large windows, all of those things, but also really starting to integrate and embed some smart features. If you think about the smart home today, you have 10 different IoT devices trying to talk to each other through 10 different apps. We're trying to make one cloud apartment app where renters actually get to enjoy some of these amazing smart home conveniences right when they move in.
Well, it certainly sounds like you guys have thought of this from a ton of different angles. I love that you've really put yourself in the renter's shoes, thinking about storage and amenities and IoT devices and all that. You guys have been working with a lot of established MBI members, even though you're a relatively new startup. Curtis Fletcher from Autovol, I think, is advising you. The guys at Architect Orange are helping with design. How did you go about assembling this team, and what influence have they had?
For sure. So a lot of the team came from my time at Star City working on that tower. Got to meet a lot of leaders in the modular industry, as well as going to World of Modular. So I went in the 2020 conference and got to meet a lot of people. Yeah, it's a lot of people there to speak with when I went. And the idea is to surround myself with the best and brightest I can of modular. So all the leaders come from structural engineering to architecture to manufacturing to contracting, as many as I can, and just learn everything. So, Curtis Fletcher has been great. So he's working as an advisor to the company in his personal capacity. So co-founder, CTO of Autovol. The other ones I brought in, just some quick names, like Bruce Greenfield, principal at Architect Orange, absolutely incredible. He's been a great help as we've designed this user experience. Troy Bean is another principal at PCI Structural Engineers. And I'm working with Troy on this patented connection system. So PCI has done, needless to say, a ton of work within the industry. And just quickly, some other advisors I surrounded myself with include some modular builders from Rad Urban. So Rad Urban really spearheaded a lot of innovation within steel modular construction, especially in the Bay Area here. And, modular hotel chain Citizen M, who uses a lot of modular for their hotels. So it's really cool to have a team like this around me.
Well, that's quite a team. Kudos to you for finding those guys and really surrounding yourself with a lot of talent. I think that potential is really unlimited there for sure. You spoke a little bit earlier about the idea behind cloud apartments, what you're trying to do for the renters and the developers. I was wondering if you could go a little bit further. You made a comment about reducing the cost for developers. So how exactly is cloud apartments going to do that? What's your goal there?
Sure. Yeah, so focusing on the developer, who I would say is our ultimate customer here. So I mentioned I have perspective working in real estate development on housing projects. And, my take on it is that developing housing is very, very difficult. I mean, that's the simplest I could say. You're looking at sites, like a dozen sites, like I mentioned. You try to put some concepts together with your architect. You try to price it with a GC. That pricing is a little bit finger in the wind because you're working off a concept. So $400 a square foot, it's a bit of a guess. You don't really know what you're going to build yet. And then you have to put a pro forma together, right? With that cost, that's a bit of a guess. You do a market study to see if there's renters in the area that will make this a profitable endeavor. So you have to decide as a developer if you want to put your own money in out of your own pocket to take down the land, to get through entitlement, and hope that price and rents, those stick enough to get it capitalized on the other side. It's just very fuzzy and it's very risky, right? So For us, we're seeing it a little bit differently. Like imagine where instead of doing that process I just mentioned, you start every building with this idea of building blocks that you start with that are pre-designed, pre-approved, pre-priced by contractors and factories, and prefabricated, right, with modular construction. These building blocks are used to really start, so you have complete certainty immediately, plus you have cost savings that make those projects pencil. So this idea to greatly streamline and make that whole development process much, much easier is the ultimate goal. And I guess, John, the last thing I would say there, a little more philosophical about how I see the industry, because I'm a bit of someone that wants to work together with people. So I see that the industry is a bit combative. I think we're all familiar with this. A lot of players having liability that they're fighting over who's liable for what. It's a bit fighting over low margins in the industry. It's a tough industry. I see a future where we really put together these elite team of builders that have, this branded type of a product that we're trying to build, that really creates these higher margins through innovation, and that can be shared, between everyone, developers, builders, and even renters alike. So that's how I see the housing crisis ultimately being solved.
Well, that's very cool. That's very cool. I was wondering if I switch gears just for a second. I was doing a little homework in preparation for this interview, and I was looking at your LinkedIn profile, and I saw a picture that you posted a couple of weeks ago. It's you sort of gazing into a big open warehouse space.
Right.
I was wondering if you could tell me about that space and how big is it, and what pieces are you putting together there?
Sure. So the first thing we need to do, so we're a young company, is to build a prototype. So the prototype we're building is what I mentioned is the Cloud S, so the studio unit. It's the first one. And yeah, in that LinkedIn post, it's the warehouse space we have. It's in the Bay Area. I invite people to visit as much as they can. So, please reach out to me and we could schedule a visit. But
Sure.
It's a pretty small space. I think it's about 5,000 square feet.
Okay.
And yeah, we're building that Cloud S. I have one of my hires, Matthew Rappa. He was a superintendent at Rad Urban. Honestly, I would say he's one of the most, if not the most experienced modular builders or installers in the country. He's installed over 1,000 at his time at Rad Urban. So himself, from not just the structure, but through full fit out. So connecting pipes, connecting wires, doing finished work on the seams of the modules, all of that. So I'm fortunate to have Master Rappa helping me build this prototype. And within 3 or 4 months, we should have a completely functioning prototype that will be the product that we use for upcoming buildings.
Well, that's awesome. I've been looking at your website, and the Cloud S, really all the models, but they're fancy.
Appreciate that.
I particularly like the bed that goes into the ceiling.
Right. So and I'll just mention Ori Living is a partner. That's there. I can't take credit for that, but we're partnering with Ori Living. Definitely check them out. They have some of the coolest movable furniture you can imagine.
So you're building a prototype, and you've mentioned this before, earlier in the interview. Tell me about the connection system that you've created for these modules. How was it developed? How does it work? And why is it so important to your projects?
For sure. So the connection system is this proprietary system that I mentioned, working on it with DCI structural engineers. And I guess I can start with a little secret within modular construction, and it's not so much of a secret, but the on-site portion of a modular build, you could say the on-site portion of an off-site build, is where cost savings are ultimately lost. It's just, there's a lot of difficulty when you bring the boxes to the job site after they're stacked. You have to coordinate, half a dozen different subcontractors to finish hooking up everything and finishing all that. A lot of cost savings are lost on that process. And that has to do with boxes not being aligned so that you can't easily install risers and things of that nature. And that is where we are zeroing in on. So we really want to focus on that on-site portion. The idea is that if we can align everything with our patented system where key elements are in tolerance, and therefore we can really snap together those pipes and wires and ducts, like I mentioned, on the job site, that's where we can really, really drive down the cost of construction and the time to build it. So not only do we have this patent system that we're working on, for us, we're actually, we're a product company with our apartments, and we're installing our own product. So Matthew Rappa, the guy I mentioned, will be leading his own crew for our cloud apartment buildings, these projects that we work on, and doing the final install, final fit outs. Because our team will be trained, starting with the Cloud S prototype I mentioned, trained, imagine like a NASCAR pit crew. Just everyone knows exactly what they're doing. It's extremely efficient. Plumbers are working next to electricians, that kind of thing. And extremely efficiently connecting these cloud apartments together on the job site and really driving down the cost. So that's ultimately how we want to be this real plug and play solution for modular. And again, make projects pencil.
So tell me about the development of your flagship building. It's in San Jose, I believe. Where are you in that process, and what's coming up next?
Sure thing. So we've used this site as a case study. So we've done a pretty full design of that site and really priced it. So what we've seen is that even on project one, a 30% cost saving per housing unit. That's using the system that I just mentioned. And that makes it pencil really nicely. So we're still a little bit early. Again, we're a young company, but the prototype we're building, that Cloud S, is actually the exact unit in terms of structural design and everything that could be inserted into that San Jose project.
Okay.
So that's how far we're going with it. As far as next steps, we're still early on, but it's a very feasible site, and we are looking for capital partners to speak with on it.
And why did you choose San Jose?
Sure. So one background I didn't mention myself is that I worked for the mayor of San Jose one summer a few years back, but there I saw that Mayor Sam Liccardo is incredibly innovative and pro-development. He wants to build housing.
Okay.
San Jose is one of these cities that is truly, I guess you could say YIMBY, yes in my backyard versus NIMBY. And yeah, they're inviting a lot of builders. A lot of innovative builders are going to San Jose.
What challenges have you had to overcome so far on this project?
I mean, it's ultimately being a young company. That's going to be the challenge. Within an industry like real estate, it's difficult. Our solution to that is ultimately, we are a partnership type of company. So I mentioned the architects, the factories, GCs, you name it, that we're partnering with. And we're not, I'll say this, we're not trying to be like the Katera where we just vertically integrate. We're the GC architect, everything in-house. So trust us, even though we've never done this before, trust us. It's more like we have a cool new product that we're working on with some really established partners. So that's ultimately how we want to break into an industry like real estate. But also probably the biggest challenge, I'll say.
What's the timeline for this project? I know you're just building your first prototype, but do you have a general sort of timeline? And if so, what do you hope to learn while this whole prototype and project is being built?
As far as the timeline, it's a little bit up in the air, but once we get investors involved, that's where we can really shine. Like I said, we're fully designed in a way. We have a product line of apartments fully designed, and we've used it for the San Jose site. So as far as I'm concerned, it's ready for permit right now. And as far as construction, we could build this right now, right? We're talking with builders already. So timeline's a little bit up in the air, but I'd say once you hit go is where we can start to really show off how fast and as well as the quality that we can build housing with.
So walk me through the development of a brand new cloud apartment building. If I'm interested in building one in LA or Portland or Seattle or any other city, how do I start? What's the process?
Yeah, so the way we start is typically a developer or an owner would send us a site. It could be a site that they either already have secured or it could be a site that they're looking at. And what we can do with our building blocks that we have, this new approach that I mentioned, is we can put together basically a feasibility study really early on with really high detail. We have partners in place and we have these pre-designed apartments, so we can tell you exactly how much it'll cost and what partners can build it. We can go further too and tell you how much a Cloud S, a Cloud 1, a Cloud 2 rents in that market you're looking at. Okay. So basically assuring your revenue and your costs in your pro forma. So if that is up to the owner or developer's taste, that we move to the next steps where we start to onboard this AEC, you could say AECM with manufacturer team, and really start going. And we work somewhat as a partnership. So we have preferred partners we like that understand, these cloud line of apartments. And we kind of form, I like to call it like a design build partnership. Like we act like a design builder because we're all building around this common building block. So through this team, we can really accelerate through all the steps you need, through permitting, getting your GMP in place, and on through groundbreak and construction.
Getting toward the end of the interview, I wanted to ask before you go, though, and you mentioned this at the top, that you had gone to the 2020 World of Modular, and you'll be attending this year's World of Modular, but as a speaker, I believe. I'm really looking forward to meeting you there. Can you tell us a little bit about your presentation and what you hope people will take away from it?
Sure. So I'm really looking forward from the 2020 being an attendee and getting to see some of these really cool presentations to, in 2022 being able to present. So that's really cool. But as far as our presentation, there is one thing that I really want to challenge there is this idea that modular construction, in terms of cost, is on par with conventional, that the only thing you save on is time. I want to push back against that and really show that to me is a complete fallacy. Like, the potential of modular is to save on cost as well as time. And that is why I'm so optimistic about this technology. So part of the presentation will definitely focus on exactly how to do that. The other parts will be just, reaching out. And I'll say this for the podcast as well. I mean, we're not vertically integrated. Like I mentioned, we're really pursuing a partnership approach. So I really want to invite architects, engineers, contractors, developers, manufacturers, all of these players to reach out to me. I think there's a way we could build some housing together.
That's great. And you said it before. I think World of Modular is probably your best place to really get introduced to these people. Everyone will be there, and I'm looking forward to dropping in on your session. I think it'll be a good one.
I really appreciate that, John. I do.
Thank you again, Curtis. I really appreciate your time today. And like I said, I look forward to seeing you in April.
Yeah, it's been a pleasure, John. Thank you so much. See you there.
My name is John McMullen, and this has been another episode of Inside Modular, the podcast of commercial modular construction. Until next time.